Please don't make my dad leave, Leo whispered, holding the old badge up with both trembling hands. Captain Daniel Mercer had just stepped out of the cockpit when the boy lifted it into the cabin light, the scratched metal catching on the name Aaron Whitaker. Behind him, Aaron stood still in his worn denim jacket, one hand on his son's shoulder, while Denise Crowley reached for the badge and Trent Hollis said, "Captain, we have this under control." But the captain's eyes had already stopped moving. 20 minutes earlier, the trouble began with a single red beep at gate B-17. The sound was small, almost polite, but it cut through the boarding line like a warning shot. Fluorescent light washed the blue carpet in a tired glow. A rolling suitcase squeaked somewhere behind them. The air smelled faintly of coffee, jet fuel, and the sharp lemon cleaner the airport used before sunrise. Aaron Whitaker stood with his 8-year-old son beside the scanner, holding 2 boarding passes he had printed at home because Leo liked paper better than phone screens. Leo was close enough that his shoulder pressed into Aaron's hip. In his left hand, the boy held the old badge, the one with the bent clip and the worn silver edge, rubbing his thumb over it the way some children rubbed a lucky stone. Marissa Vale scanned Aaron's pass first. Green, then Leo's. Red. She frowned, tapped twice, and the printer beside her spat out a new boarding pass with a dry little cough. "There's been a seat reassignment," she said, not looking at them. Aaron blinked once. "Reassignment." Marissa folded the new pass before he could read the bottom line. "Your son is now in 12C. You're in 34B. Leo's fingers tightened around the badge. "Daddy." Aaron felt the change in his son immediately, the shallow breath, the locked knees, the way his eyes went past people instead of at them. He lowered himself to one knee right there beside the gate rope, ignoring the shuffle of impatient passengers behind him. "Look at me, buddy," he said. "For in, for out. Stay with me." Leo tried, but the breath broke halfway. Aaron turned back to Marissa, keeping his voice low. "He's 8. He doesn't need a luxury seat. He needs his father." Marissa's smile stayed in place, but it had no warmth in it. "Sir, the system manages seating based on operational need." Behind the counter, the screen reflected in the glass for half a second before she angled it away. Aaron caught only 2 words near Leo's name: manual override. He did not reach across the counter. He did not raise his voice. He simply took out the original boarding pass from his jacket pocket, the paper soft from being checked too many times, and placed it flat on the counter. "We selected adjacent seats 3 weeks ago," he said. "I have the confirmation email too." Marissa glanced at his work boots, the frayed cuff of his jeans, the small canvas bag with Leo's inhaler and coloring book tucked inside. Her eyes returned to the pass as if it had disappointed her. Preferences are not guarantees. The boarding line slowed. A man in a business suit sighed loudly. Somewhere near the jet bridge, a gate agent radio crackled. Leo leaned closer to Aaron and pressed the badge against his chest. "Are they going to make me fly alone?" Aaron swallowed, then placed his palm gently over the boy's small hand and the old piece of metal beneath it. "Not if I can help it," he said. "And we tell the truth. That's all we do." Marissa printed a second slip, clipped it to a clipboard, and spoke into her headset with a careful, professional calm. "Boarding is delayed by a family seating issue." Aaron looked down at the new pass in her hand. Along the bottom edge, half hidden by her thumb, was a small line of text she had not meant him to see. "Seat reassignment. Gate override." Aaron saw the words before Marissa's thumb covered them. Seat reassignment. Gate override. Not weather. Not balance. Not some invisible system shifting bodies around a cabin for reasons no ordinary passenger could understand. A choice. Someone had made a choice, and now Leo was staring at the jet bridge, as if the long gray tunnel were pulling him away from the only person who knew how to bring him back when fear took hold. "Ma'am," Aaron said, still calm. "That says gate override." Marissa's eyes flicked down, then up. "Sir, please step aside. He's 8. We're boarding. Then help me fix it before we board." The words were not loud, but they landed hard enough that the passengers closest to them stopped pretending not to listen. Marissa's smile sharpened. She lifted the radio at her shoulder and spoke in a practiced airport voice, the kind that made every problem sound like paperwork. I need a supervisor at B-17. Passenger refusing updated seating. Leo's hand slid into Aaron's jacket, gripping the denim at his side. Aaron felt those small fingers twist into the worn fabric and hated that his son had to hear adults turn fear into blame. He reached back without looking and covered Leo's hand with his own. Nobody's refusing, he said. We're asking you to honor the seats we paid for. Marissa looked at his scuffed work boots, at the faint black grease caught beneath one fingernail, at the canvas bag sagging from his shoulder. The bag had a blue dinosaur keychain, a folded coloring book, Leo's inhaler, and 2 peanut butter sandwiches wrapped in wax paper because airport food cost too much and Aaron had learned never to gamble with a child's hunger. Mr. Whitaker, she said, reading from the screen like the name itself had no weight. Basic fares are subject to operational changes. The fare didn't change his age. A man behind them muttered, "Come on, man." Someone else whispered, "People always want something extra." Leo heard it. His chin dipped. Aaron did too, but he did not turn around. He would not give the crowd his anger and let his son think anger was the only shape strength could take. Trent Hollis arrived with a tablet tucked against his chest and a tie so perfectly centered it looked measured. He smelled faintly of mint gum and expensive aftershave, clean in a way that made Aaron suddenly aware of the oil ghosting the seams of his own hands. "Good morning, sir," Trent said. "I understand we're having difficulty complying with seating updates." Aaron took the original boarding pass from his pocket and placed it flat in Trent's open palm. Then he unlocked his phone, pulled up the confirmation email from 3 weeks earlier, and turned the screen so both of them could see the 2 assigned seats side by side. "No difficulty," Aaron said. "Just a mistake." Trent glanced at the email for less than a second. Seat selections are not always guaranteed. It's not a preference when a child can't regulate panic alone. "We care deeply about families," Trent said, his voice soft enough to sound kind and empty enough to be dangerous. "But safety comes first." At the aircraft door, Denise Crowley appeared in her Navy uniform, silver wings pinned bright against her jacket. Her smile had the smoothness of something laminated. "Is this the family seating delay?" she asked. Marissa nodded too quickly. "Passenger is refusing separation." Aaron's jaw tightened once. Just once. Leo pressed the old badge against his own chest until its bent clip printed a small line into his shirt. Denise crouched halfway, not low enough to meet Leo's eyes, only low enough to perform concern. "Sweetheart, big boys sit by themselves all the time." Leo shook his head. "I'm not big when I can't breathe." For half a second, the gate went quiet. Even Trent looked down. In the cockpit, Captain Mercer heard the report through the interphone as a thin voice behind Denise's words trembled into the line, and his pen paused above the pre-flight checklist. Denise straightened. "If he cannot calm down, he may not be fit to fly." Aaron slid one step in front of Leo, not blocking, just shielding. "Don't make his fear the problem you created." Trent tapped his tablet, and Aaron saw the word refusing appear beside his name before the screen tilted away. But below it, in smaller text, another line flashed cold and brief. "MVale manual override." The letters disappeared as Trent tilted the tablet against his suit jacket, but Aaron had already seen enough. "MVale manual override." The words sat behind his eyes like a cold piece of metal, but Leo's breathing mattered more than being right. Aaron looked down at his son, saw the boy's lips parting too fast, saw the old badge pressed so hard against his shirt that the edge left a crescent in the cotton, and made the first quiet decision of the morning. He would not let this airport teach Leo that panic made him powerless. "We're going to walk," he said softly, "just to the door. One step at a time." Denise gestured toward the jet bridge as if granting mercy. "That would be best." Marissa's headset crackled. Trent typed something else. Aaron did not ask what. He took the original boarding pass, folded it once, and slid it into the inner pocket of his denim jacket, beside the confirmation email printout he had carried because paper felt safer than promises stored in a phone battery. Then he put a hand at Leo's back and guided him toward the aircraft door. The jet bridge smelled like damp carpet, recycled air, and the faint metallic breath of the plane waiting at the other end. Leo counted under his breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Aaron counted with him, not loudly enough for anyone else to call it a scene. Just enough for the boy to borrow his calm. At the cabin entrance, Nora, the younger flight attendant, gave them a quick look that was different from Denise's. Not softer exactly, more awake. She had heard Leo say he could not breathe, and that sentence had stayed with her. "Welcome aboard," she said, though the words sounded careful now. Aaron nodded once. "Morning." They moved into the narrow aisle, past the first-class curtain clipped open, past polished shoes and newspapers and people pretending not to stare. Then a small commotion broke near row 9. Evelyn Brooks, 63, silver hair tucked under a soft blue scarf, had stopped beside her seat with one hand on the overhead bin and the other clutching the handle of a carry-on that would not turn. Her boarding pass slipped from between her fingers and skated under the seat in front of her. The scarf caught in the suitcase wheel. A man behind her sighed. "Ma'am, we need to keep boarding moving," Denise called from behind Aaron, her voice smooth and impatient. Aaron looked at Leo. "Stay right here. Hand on my jacket." Leo obeyed, small fingers closing around the denim seam. Aaron bent down, careful not to bump anyone, and reached beneath the seat for the fallen boarding pass. His knees cracked softly. The aisle light threw a pale line over the grease stains that never fully left the creases of his hand, no matter how long he scrubbed after work. He handed the pass back to Evelyn without looking for thanks. "You're row 9A, he said. "Window. We'll get you turned around."
"I'm sorry," Evelyn whispered, embarrassed.
"I get nervous when people wait on me." "People can wait 10 seconds, Aaron said. He loosened the scarf from the wheel thread by thread, slow enough not to tear the silk. Then he lifted her carry-on into the bin, testing the weight before raising it so it would not swing toward her face. "Do you need the small bag under the seat?" he asked. Evelyn blinked. "My medication is in it." Aaron shifted his own canvas bag closer to his feet, making room beneath the seat in front of her. "Keep yours where you can reach it." Denise watched from the aisle, lips pressed thin. To her, it looked like another delay. To Evelyn, it looked like a man bleeding quietly from a wound nobody else could see and still stopping to bandage someone else first. Leo watched too, still clutching the badge. When Aaron came back, the boy held it out. It got dirty. There was a faint black smudge across the scratched face, probably from Aaron's jacket pocket, right over the name. Aaron took it gently, rubbed it clean with his thumb, and gave it back. For a second, under the cabin light, Evelyn saw the letters clearly: Aaron Whitaker, Safety Systems Engineering. She did not know what they meant. Not yet. But she knew this. The man they had written down as refusing had just been the only one in the aisle willing to serve. Denise did not thank Aaron for helping Evelyn Brooks. She only looked at the aisle, at the carry-on now secure in the overhead bin, at the small pause his kindness had created in her boarding rhythm, and turned that pause into another mark against him. "Sir, we need you seated now," she said, each word polished enough to sound reasonable. "Your son's assigned seat is 12C. Leo's hand tightened around the old badge. Aaron felt the boy's fingers trembling through the denim of his jacket. "He's not going up there alone," Aaron said quietly. "Then we may have a compliance issue." "No," Aaron said. "We have a child who's scared." Denise's smile stayed in place, but her eyes hardened, and behind her Trent was already tapping on his tablet again, building a story one careful word at a time. The cabin lights hummed overhead. The air smelled of coffee, wool coats, and the dry plastic scent of a plane not yet awake. People shifted in their seats, pretending to look at seat numbers while watching the man in the worn jacket and the little boy with red eyes. Nora stood near the forward galley, hands folded, but her gaze kept moving between Leo's chest and the way his breathing hitched every few seconds. "Sweetheart," Denise said, lowering her voice as if gentleness could erase the command inside it. "You're going to walk with me to row 12. Leo shook his head. "I sit with Daddy. Big boys can be brave." "I'm trying," Leo whispered. That tiny sentence did what Aaron's anger never could. It made the space around them slow down. Aaron crouched again, putting himself between Leo and the aisle without blocking anyone. "Buddy, look at me. I can't." "Yes, you can. For in." Leo tried to breathe, but Denise reached toward the badge as if removing the object might remove the problem. Leo pulled back. The badge slipped from his hand and struck the aisle floor with a small metallic tap. It spun once beneath the cabin light and landed face down near Nora's shoe. No one moved for half a second. Then Nora bent and picked it up. The front was scratched, the name partly worn from years of thumbprints and pockets, but the back was clearer. There, etched in small block letters near the bent clip, was a line that made her brow crease. A 17 cabin safety revision. Nora turned the badge slightly, catching the light. At the forward bulkhead, just above a service panel near the galley, a narrow maintenance label carried the same beginning. 017. Not big, not dramatic, just a small printed code the color of dull gray, the kind passengers never noticed and crew members were trained to respect. Aaron saw Nora see it. He did not explain. He did not claim it. He only held out his hand, palm open, and said, "Please don't take it from him. It helps him stay calm." Denise stepped in too quickly. "It's a novelty badge," she said, taking it from Nora before Nora could ask the question forming on her face. "That badge can't be real." Trent looked up at the phrase, then back down at his tablet, as if repeating it in a report would make it true. "Passenger using unofficial identification to influence crew," he murmured while typing. Aaron's eyes lifted, not to challenge him, but to the service label by the galley. A 17. His jaw moved once, the way a man swallows a memory he has no intention of handing to people who would misuse it. Nora returned the badge to Leo, but not before her thumb brushed the engraved code one more time. She walked back toward the galley, reached for the crew device clipped beside the interphone, and sent a short message to the cockpit. "Captain, passenger badge has a 17 marking. Does that mean anything?" In the cockpit, Captain Mercer read the message while the pre-flight checklist waited beneath his pen. He did not answer. He only stared at those 3 characters, a 17, as if a door in his memory had just unlocked from the other side. Captain Mercer stared at Nora's message until the letters stopped looking like letters and started feeling like memory. A 17. Somewhere behind the cockpit door, under the soft tick of instruments and the low breath of ventilation, that code pulled at something old in him. He did not answer Nora right away. He set his pen down beside the pre-flight checklist, slow and deliberate, and looked toward the closed door as if he could see through it to the boy holding the badge and the father refusing to raise his voice. In the cabin, Denise had already moved on, or tried to. "Ladies and gentlemen, please continue taking your seats," she announced, her smile returning like a curtain drawn over a cracked window. "We appreciate your patience during this minor seating matter." Minor. Aaron heard the word, and Leo did too. The boy's shoulders sank. Aaron leaned close, keeping his voice below the cabin hum. "You are not minor," he said. "Not to me." Leo's breath caught, then steadied by 1 small inch. Nora stood near the forward galley with the crew device still in her palm, her thumb hovering over Mercer's unanswered message. Denise gave her a look. Not a command exactly, a warning wrapped in professionalism. Nora clipped the device back, but she did not delete the message. The aircraft door was still open, cold air from the jet bridge slipping into the cabin and stirring the edge of Evelyn Brooks's blue scarf. A ramp worker's radio crackled outside. Somewhere near the galley, a service cart shifted. It made a sound so small most people missed it. A dry double click. Metal against metal, but not seated. Aaron's head turned before anyone else reacted. It was not dramatic. It was not heroic. It was the movement of a man who had spent years learning that machines often whispered before they failed. His eyes went to the galley cart locked beside the forward compartment. One latch sat almost flush. Almost. But the brake indicator showed a sliver of red where there should have been green. Denise reached for the cart handle to shove it tighter. "Don't force it," Aaron said. The cabin stopped in pieces. A newspaper lowered. A seat belt buckle froze halfway into its clasp. The air conditioning suddenly sounded louder than the people. Denise looked at him as if he had touched her shoulder, though he had not moved. "Sir, remain seated." "Lock pin first," Aaron said, still low. "Then brake check. If you push back with that cart unseated, it can jump the track." Trent stepped into the aisle, tablet ready. "Mr. Whitaker, please do not interfere with safety equipment." Aaron lifted both hands, palms open. "I'm not touching it." Then he looked at Nora, not Denise, not Trent, because Nora was the one near enough to check without turning it into a contest. "I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to check the pin." Nora hesitated. Denise said, "Nora," just her name, sharp and quiet. But the cart gave another faint click as the plane trembled under boarding movement, and Evelyn drew her feet back instinctively. Leo pressed against Aaron's side. Nora stepped to the galley, crouched, and looked where Aaron had looked. Her face changed. Not fear. Recognition. She pressed the lock pin in, lifted from the hinge side, and the brake indicator snapped from red to green with a clean, final sound. Click. The kind of sound that made a room understand something had nearly gone wrong. No one clapped. No one praised Aaron. That would have made it easy. Instead, silence settled in a thin layer over the first rows. Denise's jaw tightened. Trent typed quickly. "Passenger interfered with galley equipment," he murmured. Aaron turned his head just enough to see him. "Your camera will show where my hands were." Trent's fingers stopped for half a second, then continued. "We'll handle this through proper channels." In the cockpit, Mercer finally answered Nora. "Send me a photo of the badge. And the cart tag. Do not delete any cabin footage." Nora looked down at the service cart label. Beneath the manufacturer number, worn by years of cleaning and use, were 4 small words and a code that matched the boy's badge. 17 brake lock retrofit. She took the photo with hands that were steady only because she made them steady. A moment later, Mercer opened the image in the cockpit, zoomed past the scratched metal, past the bent clip, past the old name Aaron Whitaker, and stopped cold when he saw the same A17 code stamped on equipment installed across his aircraft. The A17 code on the service cart did not prove everything, but it proved enough to make Captain Daniel Mercer stop treating the cabin report as a simple passenger problem. In the cockpit, the photo from Nora filled the crew device screen. The scratched badge in Leo's small hand, the worn name Aaron Whitaker, the bent clip, the same A17 marking stamped on the cart tag below it. Mercer enlarged the image until the letters blurred at the edges. The instrument panel glowed green and white in front of him. Outside the windshield, the jet bridge sat locked against the aircraft, ordinary and still, while something in the past began to move. "Pull the service archive," Mercer said to his first officer. His voice was quiet, but it had changed. The first officer glanced over. "For a galley cart?" "For A17. A few taps opened the maintenance database, then the safety revision archive, then a folder no passenger would ever know existed. For several seconds, only the ventilation spoke. Then the file appeared, A17 Cabin Safety Revision, Whitaker Design Notes. Mercer's hand rested flat beside the throttle quadrant. He did not touch the screen at first. He only looked at the name. In the cabin, Aaron knew none of this. He was back beside Leo, one shoulder angled between his son and the aisle, trying to make himself small enough not to be accused of blocking anyone and solid enough for Leo to lean on. Evelyn Brooks sat near them with her small medication bag under the seat, both hands folded around her boarding pass as if it had become more than paper. Nora had returned to the galley, but her face no longer had the neutral shine of routine. Denise noticed. Trent noticed too. "Nora," Denise said softly, "let's not complicate a minor matter." The word minor again. Aaron heard it and felt Leo shrink against him. He could have spoken then. He could have said he had heard that sound because he knew the retrofit, that he had worked with systems where one mislock could become a report, then a lawsuit, then a funeral if people were unlucky enough. He could have said his name was not a novelty. But he looked at Leo's pale face and chose not to turn the aisle into a battlefield. "You okay?" he asked his son. Leo nodded, though he was not okay. "My chest feels buzzy." Aaron touched 2 fingers to the badge in the boy's lap. "Then we breathe before we break." In the cockpit, Mercer opened the archive design notes. The first page carried a corporate header, clean and bloodless. The public summary credited a safety team. The appendix told a different story. Initial field analysis, A. Whitaker. Failure pattern. Cabin lock pins seating visually without full brake engagement. Recommended crew language. Lock pin first, then brake check. Mercer leaned back as the phrase from Nora's report landed in him with weight. Lock pin first, then brake check. He had heard Aaron say it through Nora, through a cabin full of people who thought the man was guessing. He had not been guessing. Mercer opened the incident history attached to a 17, and the cockpit seemed to narrow around him. Years ago, on a storm diversion into Denver, his crew had used that revision after a forward cabin failure. A cart had broken loose on another aircraft the month before. 17 prevented it from happening again on his. The fix had not made headlines. It had simply allowed people to go home. Check the manifest, Mercer said. The child's seat change. The first officer pulled the passenger record. Leo Whitaker, original seat beside Aaron Whitaker. New assignment entered 11 minutes before boarding. User code, MVAL manual override. Mercer's eyes darkened. Not automatic. Then he requested the cabin camera stills and the current incident log. The log arrived first, written in Trent's careful language. Passenger refusing crew instruction, passenger interfering with safety equipment, child unable to comply. The camera stills followed and quietly dismantled each phrase. Aaron's hands were raised when the cart was checked. Aaron stood back while Nora secured the lock. Aaron helped Evelyn before anyone knew the badge mattered. The evidence did not shout. It lined up. That was worse for the people who had twisted it. In the cabin, Trent's phone buzzed. He read the cockpit request for original manifest, camera retention, and full incident notes. A thin shine appeared near his temple. He slid the phone into his jacket pocket too quickly and stepped closer to Denise. We should resolve this off the aircraft, he murmured. Before passengers misunderstand. Evelyn heard him. Nora heard him. Aaron heard only enough to understand the shape of it. They wanted the truth moved somewhere private, somewhere soft enough to smother. Mercer looked once more at the badge photo, then at the archive with Aaron's name buried in the appendix like a man hidden behind his own work. He picked up the interphone, but did not call the cabin. Not yet. Instead, he stood, straightened his jacket, and said to his first officer, "If they wrote this man into a false report while his son was watching, this is not a seating issue anymore." The cockpit door unlocked with a muted click, and the truth became too heavy to handle behind it. The cockpit door opened with a quiet click, but the cabin heard it like a gavel. Captain Daniel Mercer stepped into the forward galley, his uniform crisp beneath the cold overhead lights, his face unreadable in the way only pilots learn after years of turbulence, alarms, and passengers looking to them for calm. Trent Hollis had already placed himself in the center aisle with his tablet raised slightly, not like a weapon, but like a shield. Denise stood near the galley curtain, one hand resting on the jump seat strap, and Marissa lingered at the aircraft door as if the gate still belonged to her. Aaron did not move toward the captain. He stayed beside Leo, one arm low behind his son's shoulders, tired eyes steady, denim jacket creased where Leo had been gripping it. The boy's old badge rested in his small palm, warmer now from fear than from metal. "Captain," Trent said first, smooth and urgent. "Thank you. We have a passenger refusing assigned seating, interfering with cabin equipment, and escalating distress in a minor child. For everyone's safety, I recommend removal before door closure." For a moment, it sounded official enough to win. The words lined up neatly. Refusing, interfering, safety, removal. A few passengers looked down, as if paperwork had settled the matter. Denise nodded once, professional and grave. "We did everything we could to accommodate them." Aaron looked at Leo, not at her. "No one accommodated him," he said quietly. "They renamed his fear until it sounded like my fault." The aisle went still. Evelyn Brooks slowly unbuckled the seatbelt she had fastened too early and stood with her boarding pass in one hand and her blue scarf gathered in the other. Her knees were not steady, but her voice was. That man helped me when nobody else stopped, she said. He picked up my pass. He lifted my bag. He made room for my medication. He was calm the whole time. Trent smiled at her with soft regret, the kind reserved for people one intends to dismiss politely. Ma'am, I appreciate your perspective, but passengers often miss the full operational picture. Mercer did not answer him. He looked at Nora. Did Mr. Whitaker touch the service cart? Nora swallowed. Denise's eyes cut toward her, sharp enough to leave a mark. Nora glanced at Aaron, then at Leo, then at the cart locked in place beside the galley. No, Captain. He did not touch it. He told me to check the pin. He was right. Another small silence. Not the final one. The thinner one. The first crack in a window before the glass knows it is breaking. Trent adjusted his grip on the tablet. Respectfully, Captain, verbal interference still counts when crew procedure is disrupted. Then let's be exact, Mercer said. He held out his hand. Your incident log. Trent hesitated only a breath too long before passing the tablet. Mercer read without expression. Leo pressed closer to Aaron. Daddy, did they write it wrong? Aaron brushed the boy's hair back with 2 fingers. Sometimes people write fast when they don't want to look slow. Mercer's thumb moved once across the screen. Mr. Hollis, who authorized the child seat override? Trent's face remained composed. The system automatically reassigned several passengers for operational balance. Marissa looked down at the gate scanner. Denise looked toward the cabin camera dome above row 1. Mercer turned the tablet outward just enough for Trent to see his own screen. The user code glowed under the seat change entry, MVAL manual override. The passengers nearest the aisle saw Trent's expression tighten before he could smooth it away. Retention shifted like air pressure. The explanation that had almost won began to leak. That code can populate during automatic processing, Trent said quickly. It's not unusual. Then the original manifest should support that, Mercer replied. He lifted his crew device, where the flight manifest waited beside the cabin stills and Nora's cart photo. Original seats. Aaron Whitaker, 34A. Leo Whitaker, 34B. Changed 11 minutes before boarding. Gate override, single passenger only. Child moved 12 rows away from guardian. Denise stepped forward. Captain, with respect, we should discuss this off the aircraft. Aaron's voice came low, almost weary. That's what people say when the truth finally has witnesses. Leo looked from his father to the captain, then opened his hand. The badge lay there, scratched, bent, and small under the cabin light. Please read it, he whispered. He says names matter. Mercer looked down at the metal, then at Aaron, then at the cabin full of people who had been waiting for permission to understand. He reached for the badge and just before his fingers closed around it, the service archive file on his crew device lit up with the same name. The service archive opened beneath Captain Mercer's thumb, and the name on the screen matched the scratched metal in his hand. Aaron Whitaker. For one breath, nobody moved. The cabin lights hummed above them, pale and unforgiving, shining on the bent clip of the old badge, on Leo's small fingers still half-curled from letting it go, on Trent Hollis's tablet frozen in his grip. Mercer read the name aloud, slowly, as if returning it to a place it had been missing from for too long. Aaron Whitaker. Aaron did not answer right away. He stood with one hand on Leo's shoulder, his face quiet, his eyes tired in a way that made the moment heavier, not smaller. Mercer turned the crew device outward. A-17 Cabin Safety Revision. Whitaker Design Notes. Denise's lips parted, but no words came. Mercer continued, his voice low enough that people had to lean in, and strong enough that no one dared interrupt. This badge is real. This man's safety revision is the reason my crew came home alive. The sentence did not explode. It absorbed the room. A phone stopped recording halfway up. A coffee cup settled into a trembling hand. Somewhere in row 3, a seat belt buckle clicked once, far too loud in the sudden silence. Leo looked up at Aaron, confused by the stillness, then slipped his hand into his father's. Mercer laid the pieces out without drama, one by one, the way a good pilot reads instruments in bad weather. The badge carries the A-17 marking. The galley cart carries the A-17 brake lock retrofit. The archive lists Mr. Whitaker's design notes. The original manifest shows father and son seated together. The seat change was entered manually at the gate, 11 minutes before boarding. Marissa looked toward the aircraft door, then down at the scanner as if it might rescue her. It did not. Mercer lifted Trent's tablet slightly. The incident log says Mr. Whitaker interfered with equipment. Cabin camera shows his hands raised and away from the cart. It says he escalated. Camera shows him calming his son. It says the child could not comply. Policy states that a minor showing signs of panic should not be separated from a guardian when reasonable seating alternatives exist. Nora had opened the policy note on her crew device, her face pale but steady. Evelyn Brooks stood near row 9, blue scarf gathered in her hand. "He helped me before any of you knew that badge mattered," she said. "That should matter too." That was when the silence deepened. Not because Aaron had once been important, but because he had been kind while being treated as if he were nothing. Trent swallowed. His professional calm had not vanished, but it had thinned. "Captain, we can address this after arrival through the proper channels." Mercer looked at him. "We are in the proper channel now." Denise tried once more. "We were following safety protocol." Nora's voice came softly from the galley. "No, ma'am. We were ignoring part of it." The words landed gently, and that made them worse. Mercer handed the badge back to Leo, not to Aaron. "You kept this safe," he said. Leo took it with both hands and pressed it to his chest, no longer like a shield, more like a heartbeat he could understand. Mercer turned to Trent. "Remove the removal recommendation. Correct the incident log. Restore the child beside his father. Preserve the cabin footage and the manifest record. I want a written report before we push back." Trent's fingers moved across the tablet, slower now, each tap sounding small and exposed. Marissa stared at the floor. Denise looked past Aaron, avoiding the camera dome above row 1. Aaron did not look at them like a man collecting shame. He bent slightly toward Leo and whispered, "No filming my son, please." When he saw 2 phones rise from nearby seats, one by one they lowered. Mercer faced him. "Mr. Whitaker, what would make this right?" The cabin waited for anger, for a demand, for the kind of victory people could understand. Aaron only breathed in 4 counts, then out 4 counts with Leo's hand inside his own. "I don't need a better seat," he said. "I need my son not to learn that quiet people are easy to break." And after the truth had finally been spoken aloud, the question hanging over the silent cabin was what Aaron would do with the power everyone had denied him until now. The first thing that changed was not the seat. It was the noise. The cabin, which had been full of whispers and judgment only minutes before, softened into something almost reverent as Captain Mercer handed the badge back to Leo and turned toward the tablet in Trent Hollis's hands. No one clapped. No one cheered. Justice, when it finally arrived, did not come dressed like celebration. It came in the quiet sound of a corrected record, each tap of Trent's finger removing words that should never have been written beside Aaron's name. Refusing became requested review. Interfered with equipment became verbally alerted crew to unsecured cart. Child unable to comply became minor passenger displayed panic symptoms after manual separation from guardian. Marissa stood near the aircraft door with her headset still on, but she no longer spoke into it. Denise Crowley folded her hands in front of her uniform, the silver wings on her jacket catching the light without shining the way they had before. Captain Mercer looked at Nora. "Preserve the footage. Attach the original manifest. Attach the gate override record." Nora nodded, and for the first time that morning, her voice did not shake. "Yes, Captain." Then Mercer looked at Leo. Not over him, not around him, at him. "You'll sit with your father." Leo exhaled so hard his small shoulders dropped, as if he had been carrying the whole airplane in his chest. Aaron guided him toward 34A and 34B, the 2 seats they had chosen weeks ago, the ones that had waited in the system like a promise someone tried to erase. He let Leo climb in first by the window, then tucked the canvas bag beneath the seat, checked the inhaler pocket, and laid the old badge gently in the boy's lap. It no longer looked like proof. It looked like something returned from exile. An operations representative came aboard before the door closed, face tight with the careful humility of someone reading words that now had consequences. She offered first-class seats, travel credits, and a private apology after arrival. Aaron listened without interrupting. Leo watched his father's face, trying to understand what victory was supposed to look like. Aaron did not look victorious. He looked tired, steady, and deeply awake. "Thank you," he said, "but we'll stay here." The representative blinked. "Mr. Whitaker, the airline would like to make this right." Aaron looked down the aisle, past Evelyn Brooks with her blue scarf folded neatly in her lap, past Nora standing straighter near the galley, past the phones now lowered and the eyes now quiet. "Then write it right," he said. "Correct the log. Review the family seating override. Train your people not to separate a panicking child from his parent when there's another option. And don't let a clean uniform turn a scared kid into a problem." No one answered quickly. That was good. Some truths needed room before they could be obeyed. Mercer signed the corrected incident report on his crew device and required Trent, Marissa, and Denise to be removed from further family seating decisions pending internal review. It was not cruel. It was not theatrical. It was accountable. Nora was formally noted as the crew member who preserved the evidence and checked the cart instead of protecting a mistake. Evelyn was thanked as a witness, and when she struggled again with her carry-on after landing, Aaron rose before anyone could ask and lifted it down for her as if the morning had not cost him anything. At the arrival gate, Mercer waited beside the open cockpit door. "I searched for the Whitaker name for years," he said, taking Aaron's hand in both of his. "I wanted to thank the man whose work helped my crew make it home." Aaron's throat moved once. He glanced at Leo, then back at the captain. "I'm glad you made it home." That was all. Not because there was nothing more to say, but because the right words had finally found the right size. Leo tugged gently at his sleeve as they stepped into the jet bridge. "Daddy," he whispered, holding the badge not tight now, just carefully. "Were you a hero?" Aaron looked through the glass wall at the evening light sliding over the runway, gold over steel, soft over everything hard. "No, buddy," he said. "I just did my job. And today, so did the truth." They walked on together, father and son, past the gate where the red beep had started it. Behind them, the room stayed quiet, not from shock this time, but from understanding. And in that quiet, the old badge was no longer a scrap of metal from a forgotten life. It was proof that dignity does not need to raise its voice, because kindness, when it is real, waits patiently until the day it becomes justice.